Hi, I'm Max Keiser. Welcome to the Keiser Report. Some say the devil's greatest trick was convincing the world he didn't exist. I say his greatest trick was convincing us that central banks should exist. And then these central banks go about convincing us that only debt is money, and to this toxic debt we must sacrifice our sovereign souls to eternal inflation, deflation, damnation! Stacey?
Max Keiser. Well, speaking of central banks and convincing us that debt is money, of course, part of that was convincing us that gold and silver are not money, and they've tried to vanish it from our collective consciousness. So, Austrian press agency cites GATA in report on possible audit of Austria's gold. The Austrian National Bank was forced to admit last week in Parliament that 80% of Austria's national gold is in London, and explained that the bank has earned 300 million euros in the past decade with gold leasing operations. After an expert commented that this suggested that a large part of the gold was leased out, the bank leaked that currently only 16% of the reserves are affected. The bank gave no explanation for the relatively high income from gold lending.
Well, GATA scores again. Bill Murphy and Chris Powell over there at GATA. Of course, simple math will tell you that if you're leasing that quantity at that rate for that period of time, you end up with a certain number, which is unimpeachable, and it points the finger at the Austrian Central Bank as being inveterate liars, and GATA is going after them as they rightfully should.
Now, gold leasing is what they do in order to suppress the price. This is part of the conspiracy theory that central banks manipulate our perception of the value of gold and therefore the value of their fiat Ponzi schemes. And so here they're trying to convince the population who's now dubious and questioning whether or not they should have sold their soul to this central banking devil. And they're saying, look, we've made 300 million euros for you. And somebody rightfully asks, wait, that means you've lent out all of our gold by our metrics.
That's the smoking gun! That's the smoking gun! And I've been working out to take on the banksters, the fraudsters, and Nassim Taleb, I should mention, that intellectual flyweight is supposed to be coming over to London soon, where he will face a serious grilling from somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, not those half-wits on CNBC. Nassim, I'm waiting for you!
So, according to the Austrian Court of Auditors now, they're going to actually have to audit the gold reserves of Austria held in London. And it says, the quote says, but to date it has left open whether this will include the physical gold holdings.
Right, yeah, this is really running into a conundrum, isn't it? Because for decades, the central banks have gotten away with holding up a representation of a theoretical value in a vacuum pertaining to an astronomical, astrophysical, quantitative analysis of what gold might look like under certain conditions, but not the actual gold. Now the central banks are being asked, where's the gold? And in the case of Gordon Brown, of course, he was forced to sell 400 tons of Britain's gold to satisfy a demand from none other than Germany. So Gordon Brown had to sell 60% of Britain's gold back in 2001 to satisfy Germany's request, and he lied about it. And the coalition government, including Cameron and Osborne today, are lying about it. They don't have the gold. And now they're being completely flayed by the actual market.
Well, for those who don't know, who haven't followed the gold manipulation story, the central bank gold manipulation story, or the GATA Gold Antitrust Action Committee story, this article points out that GATA alleges that Western central banks have manipulated the price of gold for decades to support their currencies, especially the US dollar, and to maintain artificially low interest rates. Many of these gold transactions are carried out with reserves of central banks, so they may be storing in their vaults only half the gold that officially counted. Now again, he mentions the devil's currency, the US dollar.
The devil's currency. Some more of my work that's stolen, of course.
And then they say that it's in order to maintain these artificially low interest rates. Again, this goes back to convincing us to believe in all these various toxic debt schemes that rely so much on low interest rates. All of these bubbles and frauds rely on that.
Right, low interest rates, not only do they steal money from savers, like Cameron and Osborne, they've stolen over 60 billion pounds from savers here in this country, and that number keeps going higher. The new chairman of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, he looks as though he'll be getting into stealing more money from Granny by imposing more quantitative easing. But this is the problem when you have these artificially low interest rates, and the problem when you don't really have the goal that you say you have. It forces you in a situation where you have to justify policies that cause hardship in the population, so you become very much like the very people you say you're fighting, the terrorists. So there's no difference now between any of the terrorists, whether it's extremists anywhere in the world, or Cameron, Mark Carney, Mervyn King, George Osborne, they're all the same.
Well, let's move on to this. We have this hoax and prank economy created by this fake fiat debt-based currencies. So let's move on to our world we live in due to this. Someone invented a $400 million Google deal and may have made money from it. For a couple of hours, Google's ICOA purchase seemed real. Now the acquired company is saying it was a hoax that originated from Aruba, but stock charts suggest someone made a killing. So Max, this was a penny stock, which is a company in Warwick, Rhode Island, that offers Wi-Fi. And the rumor was put out in a press release on PR Newswire, a respectable company, that they were being bought for $400 million by Google. The shares went from less than a penny to 5 cents.
Well, this is a pump and dump scam, okay? And you had this huge move in the market, and people got burned. But, you know, the global bond market is a huge pump and dump scam, where you've got people talking up the value of sovereign debt, like the UK gilt market, to 300-year highs. And when it crashes, it's going to crash spectacularly, and people are not prepared for it, and nobody in this country or around the world is preparing their population for the paper apocalypse.
Exactly, and also the article, one of the articles about this story does point out that this is part of the trend of newsjacking, they call it, where you want to be trending on Twitter, for example.
Well, the world is becoming insectual.
In what?
Insectual, like an insect. Insectual. So the world is becoming like bees looking for pollen, and they're triggered by pheromones. Pheromemes is something I invented. It's a combination of a scent and an idea. Pheromeme. And when something like this comes into the blogosphere, prices skyrocket temporarily, and you have this amazing incident of fraud. But since fraud has gone public with Facebook and Groupon and these second-wave.com stocks, there's no way to stop it, because without the fraud, Goldman Sachs would go bankrupt overnight. JP Morgan, without fraud, without their ability to commit massive market rigging, insider trading, LIBOR scandals, they would go bankrupt overnight. Jamie Dimon would be on the street selling apples, as he should be, because he has no talent other than to be a Ponzi scheme-wielding fraudster. So fraud is the lifeblood, but nowhere more so than in the city of London, the world headquarters of fraud.
You know, you also mentioned the paper apocalypse, and I want to go to the next story about this. Grantham. We are literally running out of superlatives to describe how much we hate bonds. This is Jeremy Grantham, a fund manager in Boston. Yields are pitiful, dangers of even a slight recovery that could wreak havoc for long-duration portfolios loom, and monetary policies globally certainly have added to the specter of rising yields.
Right, bonds are going to crash. Is that a black swan, like that flyweight Nassim Taleb would have us believe? No, it's an obvious build-up to a system that's built on fraud, lubricated by the platitudes and bromides by that fake intellectual Talib Nassim when he goes on these various shows like CNBC. He's part of the problem. Okay, buddy, you put on a volatility spread and then you make the market go haywire with 0% interest rates. You're going to cash in every now and then as long as your cost of funds is near zero. That's not smart. That's just gaming the system. Why did anyone pay this guy any attention?
So back to the story of our hoax and prank economies, in which we've been divorced from any understanding of value or wealth or how wealth is created. So all we have are Ponzi schemes and the hope of getting in early. That's everybody hopes to get in early on one of the. They're not really against Jamie Dimon or Lloyd Blankfeins or any of these other Ponzi schemes being operated around the world. The only time they get angry is that they weren't involved early on.
Right, because they have compromised society, they've compromised morality, they've compromised ethics. That's when the devil takes over. When you have the devil's currency and 0% interest rates, and Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger down there in Omaha playing with each other while they're picking insider information, manipulating prices, and calling themselves geniuses, that's the devil.
So here in London, we have this story. Restaurant boss starts pay revolt on bank swaps. One of London's top restaurateurs has stopped paying Royal Bank of Scotland thousands of pounds a month to service a complex derivative contract he says the lender missold him. So this is Sami Wasif, and he's the co-founder of Michelin-starred Chinese restaurant Hakkasan. And he said he's already started to miss his £4,000 payments to RBS, which is, of course, owned by the taxpayer. He said because he realized after paying £200,000 to this interest rate swap that he didn't know why he was paying it. It was totally fraudulently sold. He gave them the £200,000, but whatever he owes left, he decided, I'm not going to pay it, and he stopped paying it.
Well, Sammy, don't pay. If Sammy's part of the global insurrection against banking terrorism, Sammy, don't pay. Sammy, don't pay. Sammy, don't pay. Don't appease terrorists. I mean, that's one thing we've learned from terrorism over the years is that you don't appease them. What did Churchill say? It's like trying to feed a crocodile, hoping that he'll eat you last. Okay, that's what the globe is all about now. They're trying to just give Jamie Dimon his extortion money. Give Carney, the new guy, some extortion money. Give Wall Street and the City of London some extortion money. Please don't eat me. Please don't. Finally, a man stands up. Sammy, whose last name I forget, is standing up to these guys. He should be on the show. Sammy, you have an open invitation. Come on the show. We're going to fight these gangsters together, Sammy.
So finally, the devil in the detail of this story here, why this is important, why it brings it back to the top of the show where we talked about the Austrian gold now missing and nobody knows where it is. Industry observers have become concerned about the potential cost of the scandal of these missold swaps, and a cabinet minister is understood to have warned colleagues privately that the compensation bill has the potential to bring down a major British lender.
Yes, we're gonna, yes!
But Max, the story is here that over and over we're told that only our debts are real, but they're so big, and only we know the secrets to these complex derivatives that only we can interpret, that you, the people, forever must sell your sovereign souls to us.
Well, it must be anti-fragile. Huh? All right, Stacey Herbert, thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you, Max.
Stay tuned for the second half. I'll be talking to Andy Bickelbaum of the Yes Men. Hi, I'm Max Keiser. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. Time now to go to New York and speak with Andy Bickelbaum of the Yes Men. The culture jamming activist duo are preparing a new film. The Yes Men are revolting.
Today, the Chamber is announcing a historic decision. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Hingo Sembra, Chamber spokesperson.
Thank you very much, Sheila, and a good day to everyone.
Breaking news right now, the Chamber of Commerce saying it will reverse its position on the climate change bill.
What we need is simply a carbon tax.
Are you here representing the U.S. Chamber of Commerce?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, I work there, and you do not look familiar to me at all. Can I see your business card?
Can I see yours?
This guy is a fraud. He's lying.
Sir, who are you really?
You guys the Yes Men?
Who?
Another hoax by the Yes Men.
The Yes Men.
It's a group of pranksters
Known for posing as corporate execs.
My name is Fred. I'm from Halliburton.
My name is Dick Impala.
Hingo Sembra.
Andy Bickelbaum, welcome to the Keiser Report.
Thank you so much, Max.
All right.
Great to be here.
Okay, so the Yes Men are revolting. People can participate on Kickstarter by contributing or donating to the film. You've got over 117,000 of the $200,000 target. We're going to add another 50,000 to that right now. What do you say to that, Andy?
That's awesome. Today's the last day, so you better act fast. Yeah, you can go to theyesmenarerevolting.com.
All right, so tell us about the film, The Yes Men Are Revolting.
This is the third film that we've made, and it follows our evolution as characters, as people, as we take on some of the biggest corporate criminals in the world. It's about how we lose hope, like a lot of activists do, and then regain it as we realize that we're really not alone, and there's this really giant movement that's behind us and actually helping in all kinds of ways, seen and unseen, and taking on the enemies of democracy, I guess you could say. Companies like, some of the worst companies out there, governments that don't care about people but serve those companies. Some of those companies like Stratfor, that is in the news recently, that spends a lot of time spying on activists. We take on these targets, and there's a lot of people doing that, and that's kind of what this film is about. Its goal is to inspire people, viewers, to take action themselves, and at the end of the film we're going to give them a platform to do that. We're in the process of building it right now, and it's a human-staffed platform so far called the Action Switchboard, that's going to give every viewer a way to get plugged into ongoing direct actions.
You are one of the pioneers, I would say, in not only this kind of spectacle and hoax and media culture jamming, but also with financial activism. For example, when you were out there talking as personifying the Dow Jones spokesperson, there was a huge move downward in the price of Dow Jones stock, and it showed the connection between irresponsible behavior by a major corporation and how that irresponsibility is monetized, how it's capitalized, how they basically thrive on their stock price, which is tied to irresponsibility. Now, you're raising money using crowdfunding, and we also have programs like Strike the Debt. So financial activism and the interaction between finance and activism is really coming together in an interesting way. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, there's no public support for filmmaking in the US, so we're actually forced to resort to things like Kickstarter. It takes a lot of time, it's a lot of work. We'd rather be filmmaking, but since there is no public support for filmmaking, we have to do it that way. That's okay, we're doing okay. And the example you mentioned where we managed to impersonate the Dow Chemical company on the 20th anniversary of the Bhopal catastrophe, the world's largest industrial disaster, for which Dow Chemical has ultimate responsibility. And we announced to the world that Dow was finally taking responsibility for this disaster. And as you mentioned, the Dow stock price tumbled by several $billion when the world believed that that was true, which kind of points to the problem with having markets decide what's right and what's wrong.
There's something running parallel with culture jamming. It could be called capitalism jamming. And a situation like crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter are kicking the traditional capitalist models and opening it up to filmmakers like yourself. So it would seem really in the keeping with what you guys are doing. Tell us a little bit about Action Switchboard. What's that all about?
The Action Switchboard is a platform, a human-staffed platform that we're building that is going to be available to anybody to launch their own direct actions or get plugged into ongoing direct actions, attacking and holding to account some of the biggest, most nefarious corporate targets there are. It's going to be a platform, but behind it are going to be people who will help you actually work on projects, come up with new ones, and carry them out, exposing some of the biggest corporate villains out there.
I wanted to ask you something. Since you guys, the Yes Men, have been so successful in portraying these corporations in the wickedness of their ways, and you've gotten smarter and more effective, the powers that are fighting back have also gotten nastier. So in New York this week, a hacktivist is on trial and faces many decades in prison for hacking into a 2-bit global intelligence company that you alluded to earlier. What does the severity of the charges indicate to you?
I think the severity of the charges indicate that the corporate world is actually kind of threatened by this sort of activism. And I want to say a bit of background on this company, Stratfor. This is a really nasty piece of work. They're a corporate spy agency, and they spy on behalf of large corporate clients, like Dow Chemical, among others, on activists. That's one of the things they do. And they've spied on the Occupy movement, on animal rights activists, on Bhopal activists, and on the Yes Men. And think about spying on Bhopal activists. They were hired by Dow Chemical to spy on Dow's victims in Bhopal. Dow having ultimate responsibility for the Bhopal catastrophe, and these activists wanting to hold Dow to account. What does Dow do? Because Dow can't actually do anything legally against them, they hire a spy agency called Stratfor to spy on those activists. So Stratfor, this company that spied on us because they had no other recourse, their emails were hacked, and the world found out what they were doing. And I just want to say it's utterly reprehensible for a company to be spying on its victims. And that's what the world found out Stratfor was doing, among many, many other nefarious activities. And whoever did hack those emails, whoever exposed those emails from Stratfor revealing all this, did a tremendous service for democracy and against those who would impede democracy. So whoever did that did a tremendous service for all of us, and I want to thank them.
All right, Andy Bickelbaum, the Yes Men are two guys, and they've done remarkable things in bringing awareness to the insidious and wicked ways of these corporations. But they're just two guys. Is there a way, and I think this might work into the action switchboard question, are you trying to scale the Yes Men? In other words, the world needs 1,000 Yes Men. They need 10,000 Yes Men. How can you take what you do, the essence of what you do, and to use a business term, scale it up to create 1,000, 10,000 Yes Men out there? Is that the point? Is that the goal? And is it possible? Am I on the right track in asking this question? And is this what we're going to be looking forward to?
Yes. The simple answer is yes. And the world needs all kinds of activism. The world needs people to get off their asses and do something, whatever it is, whatever they can do from wherever they are, to fix democracy and take it back from those who have stolen it. One thing you can do is the sort of activism that we've been doing, fun, media-getting activism. It's one component of it. It's only one component of it. There's a lot of components of it, like hacking emails belonging to nasty corporate spy agencies is a really important thing to do. But what we do is one thing you can do, and we've been helping people to do this sort of thing for about 3 years now, and we've found that there actually is nothing special about us in regards to this kind of activism. Anybody can do it. Anybody can come up with a great idea and carry it out. Often it takes a bit of coaxing, a little bit of reassurance, maybe a bit of advice along the way, and that's what the Action Switchboard is going to be. We've been doing this in person for about 3 years, and we've helped a couple dozen projects happen. Actions that other people have taken that are fun and media getting, with a little bit of help from us, a little bit of advice from us. We're going to take that and, as you said, scale it up to the entire internet, in other words, much of the world, and help whoever wants to figure out actions to take, fun media getting actions, and do those things.
It would seem that there's room on the internet for a P2P social networking platform that's dedicated exclusively to scaling up activism to do battle with the corporations. I want to ask you, we have about 30 seconds left. I noticed that some of the old world order guys like Brzezinski has come out recently with a statement saying that the grassroots activists out there are becoming a huge threat to the status quo. So bells are ringing in the hallowed halls of the old world order and the new world order, as some call it. Is this proof of success, or is how far are we into actually defeating these guys?
Well, grassroots activism has been extremely important for a very long time. It's what's always defeated the bad guys and made good things happen for hundreds of years. And you can point to, civil rights struggle, the New Deal in America that created the social welfare state, and the things we hold as basic tenets of civilization. All of that is due to progressive activism, people taking to the streets. So now is no different. But now the situation is very dire because the entire planet is facing catastrophes because of runaway capitalism. So there are many ways to take action, and we want to encourage people to do whatever they can to hold these nasty folks to account and rein them in and take back power.
All right, Andy Bickelbaum of the Yes Men. We're out of time. Thanks so much for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you, Max. Great to be here.
All right, and that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I want to thank my guest, Andy Bickelbaum of the Yes Men. If you want to send me an email, please do so at keiserreport@rttv.ru. Until next time, bye, y'all.